Hi, y'all. I'm Barry Hack. Have you ever told a little white lie? You know, maybe you went out fishing and you caught a fish, so big. Just playing fisherman. We're not going to pick on y'all today. Have you ever deceived somebody? Said you're going to go do one thing but did another. That you're going to go one place but, you went to another place. Well, if you have, then you have something in common with today's character. His name's Jacob. His name means deceiver. So Jacob was born over 3,000 years ago. He was a fraternal twin. His brother was red and hairy, and Jacob came out smooth skinned. Jacob was a man who stayed around the camps. He cooked, hung out, kind of a mama's boy. Esau was the one who went out hunting wild game, and, he was a daddy's boy. So Jacob stole birthright from his brother Esau. Esau was the oldest. He stole the blessing from Esau, came in and deceived dad, pretending to be Esau. He pretty much deceived and schemed his way through life. He left home with mom's and dad's blessing to go marry a relative up the way and traveled away. His brother Esau was not happy with that. He wanted to kill his brother for stealing the blessings and birthright and just held a grudge against him his whole life. So Jacob moved away and went and lived with some family and married a couple of women over there. Again, he was deceived in that. His father-in-law had him marry the oldest daughter who he didn't want to marry first, and then he's like, I wanted to marry this one. He says, well, I'll let you marry this one too, but you got to serve me for some more years. So Jacob ends up serving his father-in-law for a total of like 20 years for the two wives and a whole bunch of land and cattle. Today's story is not about having two wives. Men, believe me, if you read this story, you don't want two wives. One is good enough. So Jacob gets done with all this. He's made his treaty with his father-in-law after running from him. I mean, it's a whole story right here that we're just giving you the backlog of. So we get to today's story, Genesis 32. He sends some messengers out because he's coming back home and he wants to see how brother Esau is thinking. 20 years, has it softened him at all? So he sends the messengers away to Esau and tells him, hey, I'm coming home to you, my brother. I can't wait to see you. I love you. I miss you. Hug, hug, kiss, kiss. The servant comes back and says, hey, brother Esau received your message. Jacob's like, great. Was he excited? Oh, he sure was. He's coming to see you, and 400 men are coming with him. And you gotta know, Jacob's like, what? So again, the planner, the schemer, the deceiver, the liar, whatever you want to call him, starts to come up with a plan. And so he takes all of his possessions and he starts putting them out in little groups ahead of him. And each group, he tells the servant, he says, when you meet up with my brother, and you'll recognize him, he's red and hairy, he's unmistakable. You tell him this is for you. It's a gift from your servant Jacob. Man, he sure does love you. And so he thought that all these gifts coming ahead to Esau would make Esau go, oh, he really does love me. Man, he sure does love me. All this cattle and donkey and sheep and goats and camels and everything. He says, wow, is what he's hoping Esau says. And so it says that night he put everybody out ahead of him, heading that direction, and he stayed behind. And he prayed. Isn't that the kind of time you pray? When things come to a head, when you have nowhere to go and you go, what do I do? Last week we talked about how powerful God is, how in Genesis 1:14 through 19, how he spoke the universe into existence, stars, how powerful just one star is, and there's hundreds upon hundreds of billions of stars, and God just spoke it into existence. Jacob knows this, and so he may not know how powerful the stars are, but he knows how powerful God is. And so he sits there and he prays. And he says, God, you've blessed me. You've given me safety along the way. You've watched over me, and you've made me into a great nation. I didn't ask any of this. You've blessed me. I know where the blessings come from. And after he gets done praying, he wrestles with a man, it says, until daybreak. Now, in theology, we call this pre-incarnate Jesus. we say that Jesus came down and wrestled with them as a man. Just like when Jesus came to earth about 1,000 years later, he came as a baby, grew up, and became a man. Jesus also came down, we believe, as one of the three visitors that visited Abraham before Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. So this is one of the times that we say Jesus came down pre-incarnate. And you get that from reading the story, but here goes the story. So Jacob wrestles with Jesus, it says a man, and as he's wrestling with him, neither one overpowers the other, okay? Jesus is holding back here a little bit, okay? Just understand that. So as it's coming morning, dawn's breaking, the man says to Jacob, hey, let me go. And Jacob says, I won't let you go. And Jesus just touches, takes his finger and touches the socket of Jacob's hip and wrenches it. I can't imagine the pain from that. Just showing that you may think you're struggling and you're doing this all on your own, but I'm in control, buddy. You should be seeking after me. So Jacob says again, hey, give me that blessing. I want that blessing. And he says, what's your name? Basically, Jesus is asking, what's your character like? Jacob has to confess, I'm a deceiver. I'm a cheater. I've been doing wrong. And so Jesus says, you're no longer a deceiver, a cheater, a liar. You're no longer named Jacob. Your name will now be Israel. He calls the place where he wrestled with God Peniel, which means face of God. See, you're not supposed to be able to look directly upon the face of God and still live. That's when you die, yeah, you may be able to see the face of God, but while you're living, that's a big no-no. So he sees the face of God and he still lives. And as he crossed over that creek, this straight man before, who was crooked on the inside, is now straight on the inside and crooked on the outside. You got to see some irony here. God does have a sense of humor. So Jacob wrestled with his faith that night, a dark night, wrestling with God. And God said he wrestled with him and with man and overcame. He struggled in his faith. We all do at some time. If you're not struggling in your faith, you might want to ask, do you really have faith? All of us have struggled in our faith at one time or another. And so we get encouragement from this story, seeing that Jacob went out there, gave his all, wrestled, and overcame. And he overcame because he struggled. It's not in the fight itself, it's in the struggle. That struggle itself is what helps you overcome. And so this week, this is my last message for this series on faith. I want to encourage you guys, if you haven't been struggling, ask yourself why. Are you truly committed to Jesus Christ? And if you are struggling, great, keep on struggling. Ask God what he wants from you. What needs to be done? God, where do I need to improve? Come talk to my heart. Those of you who haven't even started on the journey, were you brave enough to pray that prayer a couple weeks ago that I asked you to? Come and get me, Jesus. If you're real, come and get me. I hope you would. All right, guys, that's it for today. I love y'all. Have a blessed week and wrestle in your faith this week, okay? God bless y'all. Bye.